All right, Thursday, almost there. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin with some big news out of the housing market that President Trump is actually working pretty hard to stabilize right now. Mortgage rates have actually fallen below 6% for the first time since 2022. We're going to have a lot more on this in the coming days. Also, President Trump welcomed Zoran Mamdani to the White House. That was the NYC mayor, saying that the two had a productive meeting. I don't know what it was about, but I guess we'll find out more. This as the NYPD arrested a 27-year-old man, not a kid, for assaulting an NYPD officer during what Mamdani called nothing more than an innocent snowball fight. And satellite services have reportedly been disconnected all across Iran. This coming as the U.S. and Iran reportedly made some progress in talks today, with more talks scheduled between the two over the next week. But first, Hillary Clinton got deposed today, and I got one of the representatives that was in that closed-door meeting to tell us all about it. Let's do this. This is going to be a doozy today. We're going to do something a little bit different, okay? I got two really hot-button issues for the open of this show. Hillary Clinton's deposition and the fact that the FBI basically was spying on everybody, including their new boss. We got two separate guests for that. So let's do the Hillary Clinton deposition first. Nothing in my life makes me happier than watching Democrats face the music, and specifically the Clintons.
We're going to release that video, and you'll be able to see the whole thing as quick as we could get the video produced. But I think what will be interesting is some of the comments that Secretary Clinton made at the very end about Jeffrey Epstein.
Lauren Boebert, who you just saw right there, is going to be joining us in just a little while. But Hillary Clinton was deposed today, and Bill Clinton, obviously, tomorrow. But it's up in Chappaqua, where they live. This alone makes my point that they are so arrogant. Part of my frustration with them and people like them is they just get to do whatever they want. They were subpoenaed to appear on this Epstein stuff a year ago, and they just blew it off through like legalese and negotiations with lawyers and back and forth, which, by the way, Democrats threw Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro in jail for. Finally, the Oversight Committee, though, Republicans and Democrats, by the way, they voted to hold the Clintons in contempt. Okay, good start. So then finally the Clintons agreed to testify with the condition, which I don't know why they get to dictate conditions, that the entire judiciary travel to Chappaqua, New York to interview them.
The Democrats voted to subpoena the Clintons. The Democrats voted with the Republicans to hold the Clintons in contempt. Mm-hmm. So the Democrats have just as many questions for the Clintons as the Republicans. So this isn't a partisan witch hunt. This was a motion, a bipartisan motion supported by the Democrats to bring the Clintons in.
I tend to think that the Democrats went along with this because they're planning to try to bring Trump in at some point. But crazier things have happened. But shortly after they started, the hearing had to be paused because Benny Johnson actually posted a picture from inside the hearing. This is of Clinton, and she seemed really not happy, which makes me happy. But apparently, part of the deal, again, why the Clintons get to dictate deals on being subpoenaed, but the deal was that there were no pictures be taken, even though the whole depo was recorded, and I guess they're releasing this stuff anyway, so whatever. They got back to business pretty quick, but now obviously, because that no recording rule, we don't actually know what was said today. Both sides have kind of come out at this point and said certain things, but what we do know is that Hillary, according to her own statement, said, quote, "I had no idea about their criminal activities. I do not recall ever encountering Mr. Epstein. I never flew on his plane or visited his islands or homes or offices. I have nothing to add to that," which, spoken like a true lawyer, I don't recall, because she apparently doesn't recall a lot of things. Because I recall her playing the same dumb I don't recall card about wiping her server, totally clear, classified server that was in her basement, and then she had her staff smash BlackBerry devices with hammers.
Did you wipe the server?
What, like with a cloth or something?
I don't know. You know how it works digitally. Did you try to wipe the whole server?
I don't know how it works digitally at all.
So when she says, "I don't recall," I bet she recalls something. I don't know what it is, but I would bet you a sandwich that she's probably met Jeffrey Epstein at some point. And given Ghislaine Maxwell at the time was the former girlfriend and still current confidant of Epstein at her daughter's wedding in 2010, you can see Ghislaine Maxwell right there circled. Bill has many documented interactions with Epstein, flight logs, photos, communications, whatever. I find it hard to believe anything that comes out of Hillary's mouth, but specifically that she's never met him. And as we were preparing to come on air, Hillary Clinton gave a brief update after the deposition.
We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule, which was very upsetting because it suggested that they might violate other of our agreements.
Because Hillary Clinton's never violated a policy, ever, right? Yeah, selling 20% of our uranium to Russia. Anyway, we're going to have Lauren Boebert, the Congresswoman from Colorado, is rushing to the camera. We're going to bring her to you as soon as she gets there. It might be a minute, folks, so bear with us. But she was in that hearing, and she's really keen on telling us all about what happened behind that closed door. But I want to get to this second story for tonight. You guys remember how Trump said that he was spied on for years, and the left was like, oh, no, you're crazy. And it turned out he was right. You may also recall when more than a dozen Congress members also found out that they were spied on. And they were right. Well, more fallout that we broke last night during the show. But today, we're hearing more about the depths of this crazy amount of surveillance. Specifically, the now chief of staff of the White House, Susie Wiles. She thought she was having a private conversation with her attorney when she was a private citizen. You know, that whole attorney-client privilege thing. But this was a conversation about what was going on in the case that Jack Smith was bringing on the classified documents about Mar-a-Lago and the 2020 election probe that we now know was, the whole probe was mostly BS to cover the real reasons that we're finding out, like stuff out of Georgia where there's all these ballots that just showed up out of nowhere. Which, by the way, apparently Susie may have been very right to question at the time. I mean, apparently, there's an internal memo also circulating around the White House that may show China was involved in the 2020 election, which kind of explains why Tulsi Gabbard was down there. You know, this was supposed to be the most secure election ever, as the Democrats said. But Trump is now reportedly considering a national emergency over this in an internal memo that was found out. Now, look, I believe that this was Jack Smith wanting to know what Susie Wiles knew. I don't think this had anything to do with classified documents. I think that them wanting to get ahead of this. I would bet you another sandwich that this was about trying to get ahead of anything Susie Wiles or Kash Patel or anyone else might have known that would prove or could prove what we're now finding out about the 2020 election. Here's the real betrayal, though. Susie Wiles' attorney, her own personal attorney, apparently consented to the recording but never told her about it. This was all done without a warrant or consent from Susie Wiles. Like, I would be so hot right now if this was my attorney. This all goes with other folks like Dan Scavino, who only after Trump won and was getting back to the White House did Scavino find out that Google had been given his info, and the investigators had full access to his Google account the whole time. But Google could never tell him because they had a court order barring Google from letting him know that he was being surveilled. Kash Patel is also wrapped up in this, which has gotten... I'm actually considering this sweet victory because you idiots over there on the left under Jack Smith, you spied on the guy who's now your boss. Great job. And I love to see it because the fallout has broken records for the fastest response ever in the history of D.C. In the last 24 hours, Kash Patel has fired at least, that we know about, 10 employees tied to the Mar-a-Lago documents investigation and a bunch of other stuff shortly after all this stuff surfaced. I mean, we're talking 24 hours, people fired. He also eliminated the agency's prohibited file categorization, which means that under those rules, you couldn't do this again. But this is what I'm talking about. You can't just go around spying on people or strong-arming their attorneys to violate attorney-client privilege. That's like one of the most sacred things in law. By the way, that attorney, I think, should probably lose his license, maybe even go to jail. I don't know what the penalty for that is, but I mean, that is a joke. Like, I'm kind of low-key glad that this happened to the actual people who have the power to do something about it. But the fact that it took the FBI director and the White House chief of staff discovering that their phones were basically tapped for this ball to move forward, the fact that no changes have been made to this date and no one had been fired, even when they spied on like a dozen congressmen, firing 10 is a good start. But I think every single person that was involved in this, in any of these probes, the J6 committee, all that stuff, They should all be fired, and they should all be barred from ever working in any level of federal government ever again because they did the biddings of politics and not the law. Speaking of the law, Newsmax legal analyst Jay Town. Sir, let's go one by one. They wiretapped an attorney without the client's consent. Is this even legal?
And the attorney knew about it. And it depends where all the parties were. So every state and the District of Columbia has different laws where I could record our conversations, Carl, because I'm in Alabama, and I just have to be able to consent. It's called a single consent state. There's plenty of places where both people, I have to get your permission to record our call, or it's a crime. So it depends on where Susie was and where this attorney was. But this attorney, I mean, when you call your lawyer, that's when you talk about sacred secrets,
yes.
Right? That's the whole point of the attorney-client privilege. And you gave it to the FBI. Now, I am certain, sitting here, that Susie Wiles had nothing to say that implicated her in some sort of a crime or nefarious behavior.
Right.
But that's not the point. She's paying this guy to listen to her, and he's letting the FBI listen in as well. It is one of the most absurd stories of the Trump era, frankly.
I'm just curious to see if there's any like disbarment for that, but
I hope there is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I would literally like fight my own attorney if that was the case for me. All right, I want to speak.
He'd lose.
Speaking of phone tapping and wiretapping, whatever they call it now, I don't know. There's always a technical term that's updated, but Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem just came out and dropped this bombshell in the deep state today.
I just found the other day a whole room on this campus that was a secret SCIF, secure facility, that had files nobody knew existed. They helped me identify that some of my own employees in my department had downloaded software on my phone and my laptop to spy on me.
Stop it.
To record our meetings.
Wow.
They had done that to several of the politicals.
Went on to say that they've turned over the files to attorneys, but these people should be in jail. There needs to be like major consequences for this stuff, Jay.
Well, and Carl, and we've talked about this several times, that when your morality is such that you believe you are correct, all of your actions, you believe, must be virtuous. They're not. They're unlawful. You can't install spyware, which is essentially software that records your clicks, your conversations, your emails, and then sends it to a third party so it can be reviewed. So we can get Kristi Noem someday. That's a crime. Those are crimes. We have to empty the deep state.
Yeah. No, I mean, but here's the problem. It's like these people are doing all this stuff. It happened to Kash Patel, and he had the power to fire the people immediately responsible for these things in his purview. But like we got to do some real cleanouts here, Jay.
Yeah, and I mean, we knew that this would be the difficult part of this Trump administration, because I think we really lifted the lid on the deep state. And I say that as a lawyer. I mean, I really believe that there was a group of people that embedded themselves so that they could protect the world against conservatives and Donald Trump. And yeah, we got more house cleaning to do, but Kash, he's doing a good job right now in cleaning up the bureau.
Yeah, no, I think he is.
Look at the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Look, no doubt, crime is on the downslide. So, Jay Town, we appreciate it very much, sir.
Thank you, bud.
All right, we are still waiting for Lauren Boebert to rush to that camera. She's going to give you the latest on what we saw in the Hillary depot. But coming up, beef prices soaring, yet American ranchers are closing. We're talking to a big guy in the beef industry on the monopoly, professional livestock auctioneer, later in the show. But first, wait until you hear what elected senators are doing with their time. The time that they said they didn't have, that they should have been passing the SAVE Act. We got that ridiculousness next.
Will you be able to afford your golden years? Do you worry how you'll make ends meet? You may be leaving up to $100,000 unclaimed. You need this special report. How to boost your Social Security and retirement by at least $100,000 or more. Get your free copy today. You've earned the benefits. Take advantage now. See our special offer to claim your free report. Call or go online today.
Are you ready to make your dream kitchen a reality? With high-quality cabinets, accents, and accessories designed for all styles and all budgets, Cabinets to Go is the place to go. Get the craftsmanship, styles, and features you want at a price you can't find anywhere else. And right now, you can get it all at 0% for 48 months. We'll even help you imagine it before installation with a free 3D design. Visit us at any one of our beautiful showrooms nationwide to get started today. Cabinets to Go, designed to wow.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, Doctor.
Well, as you just saw with the FBI, you just don't hate the government enough. In this case, it's about securing the election that apparently they didn't secure in 2020. Still waiting on the Senate to vote and pass the SAVE Act, to secure our elections. But remember when Senator John Thune said, there's no time to pass the SAVE Act?
I would just remind people that the coin in the realm in the Senate is floor time. There's a finite amount of it, and we have a lot of things we have to do.
I think it's amazing to see these dogs so well behaved with all these people. They think every one of you is one to eat them.
I think part of the reason why we decided to do it is I'm always, trying to get people to laugh a little bit. I mean, you can be good at this job and not be serious 24/7. As a matter of fact, if you're serious 24/7, you're probably not good at this job.
Those are your elected senators 1 week into a DHS shutdown, mind you, hosting a parade of dogs in Mardi Gras costumes, calling it bipartisan Doggy Gras Paw Parade, led by Senator Tom Tillis, who says the parade is silly, but that doesn't mean it's not important. Take your dogs home and go vote to secure our elections. Don Brown, North Carolina Senate candidate to replace Tom Tillis and his stupid dog parades. He's also a former federal prosecutor and former JAG. This is just insane, Don.
Well, it's a product, unfortunately, and yes, I'm going to be replacing Tillis and looking forward to it, but it's a product of weak Republican leadership in the Senate. Carl, it isn't just a SAVE Act, which should be priority number one. The majority of the president's judicial nominees, 70 nominees have been submitted to the Senate. Only 33 have been appointed by the Senate. Look at U.S. attorneys. There have been 93 U.S. attorneys nominated and only 34 approved. And look at our ambassadors, 195 ambassadors nominated, only 82 approved. We don't have Trump-appointed ambassadors in Russia or Ukraine or Germany or the Philippines. Is ridiculous. The Senate needs to get off its duff and get this done. And on the SAVE Act, if that means modifying the filibuster rule to go back to a talking filibuster, whatever it takes, let's get it done. The American people want it done. The Senate needs to get off its duff and get to work.
I couldn't have said it better myself, sir. But even the more reason to have the SAVE Act passed. Back in Fulton County, okay, this is like the heartland of all the fraud in Georgia that we're finding out now. It's not just ballots we need to worry about. It's also lawfare. The new memos that were obtained by Just the News reveal that the Biden Justice Department invited Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to apply for a very lucrative sole source grant in 2022. And we know that because we've seen the email where she responded, where she says, yes, this is the one that you invited me to apply to. This is crazy.
Well, Carl, I heard your excellent segment right before mine on Kash Patel being spied on and Susie Wiles. Listen, it's not just a matter of debarring these attorneys. We have got to start prosecuting these English-speaking communists that have bastardized our court system. Listen, 18 U.S.C. 241 and 42 allow for that. You can't use the color of your office to abuse someone's constitutional rights. You cannot conspire to abuse someone's constitutional rights. And I've been calling for rogue prosecutor laws. Yeah. We've got Fannie Willis should be prosecuted, Alvin Bragg, Jack Smith, go right down. Until these prosecutors are prosecuted, they're going to try it again if they ever take power, and it's long overdue.
100%. Sir, I got a minute left here to tackle a very complicated issue, but I want you to put your former JAG hat back on. The FBI has arrested a former U.S. Air Force pilot who used to teach some of our most secure things, including nuclear weapon deployments, and now he's gone and trained Chinese pilots, allegedly at this point. Now, this 65-year-old Gerald Brown was arrested in Indiana, charged with criminal complaint for providing and conspiring to provide defenses to Chinese military. This is bonkers.
Sure, being the F-35 is our principal go-to fighter. It's very, very complicated, very sophisticated. When those B-2 bombers drop those bunker-busting bombs on Iran, F-35s accompanied that. It's a stealth fighter, and this guy became a test pilot. This is a pattern we're seeing with communist China. They're luring in former military officers under the guise of being advisors to private corporations and basically stealing American military technology. If this guy's guilty, we need to hit him hard. To me, it's not just a violation of the Arms Export Control Act, but also espionage and treason. And I think we need to take it that seriously.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Don Brown, we appreciate it very much, sir.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah. Coming up, big tech's AI just got caught screwing American workers out of jobs, and the DOJ finally slapping them down. But how deep does this H-1B favoritism scam really go? Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the DOJ, Harmeet Dhillon, is going to sound off next.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
You moved in. You nested.
Hey, what are you doing?
You partied. You cuddled. You made egg rolls. You slept in. Or tried to. And you kept growing. Now it's time for the next chapter. With Open Door, get an all-cash offer for your home in 24 hours. Because saying goodbye should be the hardest part. Move into your future with Open Door.
Your Florida life is calling, and we have the answer. Valencia in Florida by GL Homes. Premium 55-plus living in 5 prime Florida locations. Gorgeous new homes from the mid-300s to $2.5 million. World-class resort-style living 24/7. Huge clubhouses, on-site dining, pickleball, and more. Effortless, low-maintenance living. Valencia, your Florida life is calling. Experience more at valenciaflorida.com.
You can't go out there. You'll never make it. But I reckon I got to. I'm 45. It's time to screen for colon cancer.
Will I ever see you again?
I love you. Also, I'm just going to the porch.
I knew that.
It's true. The Cologuard test comes to you.
Just ask your provider or request online.
That way you can screen for colon cancer on your terms. It's effective and non-invasive.
False positive and negative results may occur. It is not for those at high risk. Skip the drama. Ask your provider or request Cologuard online.
Hello, this is WWE Hall of Fame wrestler Mick Foley. Across this great country, there are thousands of veterans with no place to call home. They deserve better.
Welcome to my new home.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is committed to eradicating veteran homelessness by providing housing and critical services.
Couldn't ask for anything more.
Please help by donating $11 a month at T2T.org. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Let us do good.
Power of disease.
Intestinal words.
15 million dogs and counting know Simparica Trio offers triple protection against heartworm disease, ticks and fleas, and intestinal worms, all with one monthly chew. This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
Not again. Your cold is coming! Your cold is coming!
Thanks, Revere.
We really need to keep Zycam in the house.
Only if you want to shorten your cold. When you feel a cold coming, shorten it with Zycam.
Get ready for spring now at Blue Compass RV with RV show prices at over 100 locations coast to coast. Forest River Auroras from $98 a month. Alliance Delta Solos from $198 a month. Or Jayco Greyhawks from $744 a month. Save on the largest selection of America's premium brands with RV show prices on over 15,000 new and used RVs. Hurry to Blue Compass RV. Shop online or in store today.
Justice Department bureaucrats doubling down on overreach, and this time going after small Virginia IT firm called Elegant Enterprises, and forcing them to settle for the maximum penalty under the law, not for discrimination against foreign workers, but for letting an AI-generated job ad identify visa holders as their preferred applicants in a country where American workers are already getting the hose by the government and the red tape and the broken labor market. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the DOJ, Harmeet Dhillon, is sending all the warnings to the employers. She joins us now. Ma'am, how are you going to police all these AIs, though? I mean, these are electronic programs that have no supervision, that evolve in seconds.
Well, look, my job is to look at the evidence that comes into us and put a stop to what I see. I'm not omnipotent, and I can't certainly deal with every single issue. We try to take aim at the most blatant offenses and then make examples out of those people. Now, I will say that the current federal maximum penalty for these types of offenses is under $5,000 per ad. Congress could certainly help me do my job by increasing those penalties, but we are going to be coming out with some cases that are really going to open people's eyes as to the sneaky and shady methods that employers use to evade our law enforcement. So I do rely and welcome the public sending me examples. I don't want your hunches. I want examples and evidence, and we will run with those.
Sure. I mean, look, I applaud. This is fantastic, because if even one American worker is getting hosed, then, it's got to be done. But you've launched investigations now also into 3 Michigan public school districts to determine whether they have included sexual orientation and gender ideology content in any of their grades K through 12. What is going on here?
So this is Michigan law, and we found these 3 school districts that are actually forcing 11 and 12-year-olds to sit through this indoctrination without informing their parents. And under Supreme Court precedent and longstanding precedent, the parents have an absolute right to be notified of this type of sexually charged content and opt out of it. And actually, I remember this dating back to when I was a kid in middle school, and my parents, my dad's a doctor, he said, look, the birds and the bees are going to be told by mom and dad. So they opted my brother and I out of that, and I'm glad. And that's how every parent should have a right in the United States. And that is being violated in Michigan, so we're going to put a stop to it.
Yeah, you've also joined a lawsuit against this radical and racial discrimination in Los Angeles public schools over the predominantly Hispanic, Black, and Asian and other program in 2025. Do we still have programs like, this is crazy. This is 2026, and we still have programs that are expressly denying white people?
We have them. I will tell you that through our work at the DOJ, we're aggressively putting an end to that stuff. I'll give you one example. Just today, I closed an investigation into the Minnesota Hennepin County District Attorney's Office, which had a policy that had blatantly race-based plea agreement for sentencing, and that's illegal, and they withdrew that. And we sent a letter to them concluding our investigation today because they backed down. And in this case, similarly, we're taking on this decades-old situation where Los Angeles County penalizes school districts that have a lot of white people in them, white students, and they benefit all of these other minorities. That's illegal. Everybody in the United States is entitled to equal protection, and we're putting the force of the federal government behind that.
Yeah, it was actually widely accepted for the last 4 years to discriminate against white people, apparently. According to reports, though, 2 separate incidences. Jasmine Crockett's campaign had even once called the police on a CNN reporter and then escorted an Atlantic reporter off the premises at a campaign rally. Now, I'm thinking this has to be in your purview, because the left went bananas when one person got banned from the White House for saying something that was factually incorrect. Jasmine Crockett is literally banning people in the press from reporting on her.
Well, look, I don't know the details of that. I wasn't prepared for that particular question, but I will tell you there's a distinction between the White House, which is the people's property, and there are court rulings that say that that is a limited purpose public forum, where I do not know whether Jasmine Crockett's rally was private or on public property, and that would make a difference as to whether the time, place, and manner restrictions of the First Amendment would apply.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a fair point, but it just seems crazy to me that they criticize Trump for doing that on the White House, as you pointed out, limited forum, and she's out there doing the same thing. Maybe.
Well, she's definitely a hypocrite, but whether it's a First Amendment issue is a different question.
Yeah. Well, Harmeet Dhillon, I applaud everything you're doing over there. Keep it up because you're rocking and rolling.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, coming up, things that weren't on my bingo card for this year. A Democrat thanking Trump, which is pretty unheard of. We're also waiting for Lauren Boebert to get to the camera. We got more coming up in our Culture Clash.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Eric fought for freedom. He sacrificed his future. My son was 21 years old when he was shot in the head. He's still very young.
Did you protect them guys?
Yeah.
The tragic events of September 11th changed our nation and inspired a generation to serve. Today, many of those veterans urgently need your help.
At Wounded Warrior Project, it is our honor to serve this generation of injured veterans.
I am proud to have served under the flag, but I was not the only one to come back with stage 4 cancer.
After I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, likely because of chemicals from my deployments, my mom was lost, my dad was lost, he couldn't fix it. Wounded Warrior Project found us.
I'm gonna need help for the rest of my life. The Wounded Warrior Project makes me feel great when I see that logo, knowing that somebody's gonna be there for me.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you will provide, at no cost to warriors, programs and services that can change a person's life forever.
We need to support our men and women who go off to fight these wars for us. I'm extremely grateful because there were times where I would pray that he would just get through the night.
Please call or go online with your gift of $19 a month, and we'll send you this limited edition blanket honoring the 250th anniversary of American independence and freedom.
With the new generation coming up, they did not grow up with 9/11. They didn't see it on TV. It means the world to us that you have not forgotten the sacrifice that our family did.
Please give a little to those who gave so much for us.
Call or go online at honorwarriors.org right now.
Muscle cramps were keeping me up at night, so then I tried Slowmag, the magnesium plus calcium supplement that helps relax tense muscles so I can rest comfortably. And Slowmag tablets have a slow-release formula that's gentle on my stomach. That's why I use Slowmag.
All right, back to our top story for tonight. Hillary Clinton's deposition. We bring you someone who was in that closed-door session today, Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Ma'am, you were there. Tell us a little bit about what you saw and what you expect from Bill tomorrow.
Yes, well, tomorrow should be the really big hearing that we've all been waiting for. It seems that former President Bill Clinton is implicated quite a few times in the Epstein files that President Trump has released to the American public. And Hillary Clinton today was pretty much her normal self in evading questions and not seeming to recall some of the hard-hitting questions. She could not recall the answers to those for us today. Now, other topics that didn't have much relevance, she could recall in great detail, but it was very difficult to get clear answers from the former secretary on some of these more difficult issues. And we did promise to leave a lot of these topics more anonymous for now until the transcripts are released. But also the former secretary walked out and did a full court press interview, releasing all the topics and many details of the day.
Yeah, well, she's claimed that she wanted this open, but then had all these conditions, and then part of the condition was to do a closed. I mean, like, she has been playing this. How did she get away with not being held in contempt and going to jail like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro? Because, I mean, this was a year ago that she was subpoenaed.
Yes, so for 7 months, we have been working with the Clintons through the Oversight Committee to get them in for a open public hearing, and they kept refusing and denying, and ultimately we did threaten to hold them in contempt of Congress, and that was a bipartisan vote. Many Democrats voted present, and others voted to hold the Clintons in contempt of Congress, and once they saw that, they did agree to this style of deposition. So here we are in New York deposing both of the Clintons. And this was their Hail Mary to avoid being held in contempt of Congress. But it did not have to come to this. It could have been public immediately, and we will get the videos released from today in full once her attorneys have reviewed it. But it also, Hillary Clinton was once saying she would still like to have a public hearing, and today she walked that back, saying that she will not be having a public hearing before the Oversight Committee.
Interesting. But she loves to spin it as if she's the one calling for full transparency here. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. But also one of the things, Congressman James Comer said it's very possible that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who obviously we know from these files brought his family to Epstein Island for a lunch with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you expect him to be called? I mean, an active member of the Trump administration right now?
It is very likely. The chairman said today that is a possibility, and we'll see where that goes and what kind of cooperation is handled first. We don't just issue blanket subpoenas on a regular basis.
Sure.
We try to work with folks that we have questions about, just like President Trump is asked about the Epstein files and every single day and provides answers to the press.
Yeah.
I don't see... I don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but I've forced the release of these files, and that was in regards to whoever may be listed. So I want justice for the victims. I want accountability for those who committed crimes, and that is exactly what we are pursuing here today.
100%. Look, I've been saying this stuff should be brought out into the full open for very long, so I appreciate what you're doing. The other thing that I really appreciate, what you and Anna Paulina, Congresswoman from Tim Burchett also, huge investigation into the slush fund of sexual misconduct payoffs. You're also being backed by Nancy Mace in this. This, to me, is so bothersome that we've had all these problems that are paid off by tax dollars, and Congress made this fund exempt from the FOIA.
Yes, this is one of the most disgusting aspects of the swamp. When I first learned that such a slush fund existed and more than $17 million has been paid out to Hill staffers, I wanted those released immediately. And now Congresswoman Mace will be bringing forward a privileged resolution to the House floor to force the names of the members of Congress who have paid out Hill staffers for the allegations of sexual misconduct. This is unacceptable. We are seeing things like Tony Gonzalez and the horrific late night texts that he sent to a former staffer who is no longer with us now. And, I've called for him to resign, to suspend his campaign. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. The American people need to know if this is the behavior that you are conducting.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, Congressman Lauren Boebert, you and your group on this one, I applaud it. I've been trying to get to the bottom of this for years, so thank you.
Yes, thanks so much.
How proud are you to be an American? I am damn proud, and an overwhelming majority of Republicans feel the same way, like we saw at the State of the Union. Like I said yesterday, you either love America or you're a Democrat. But it didn't used to be this way. In the span of just one generation, Democrats have went from having American pride, basically the same as Republicans, to now only 1/3 of the Democrat Party is proud to be an American, compared to 92% of Republicans. Host of Ungoverned on LFA TV, Shawn Farash, and Daily Caller reporter Ashley Brasfield. Shawn, they could just leave.
They could just leave. And you know what? I would encourage them to just leave. These are the same people who are crying that Snow Mexico lost to those amazing young men for the USA hockey team when we beat our soon-to-be 51st state in the Olympics for the gold, not just the men, but the women as well. But my goodness, Carl, I don't know about you. That was the most excited that I've been on a Sunday morning in a very long time. Obviously, you and I are Jets fans, so Sunday mornings are devoid of excitement for much of the year. But I'll tell you, when Jack Hughes scored that goal, I went berserk to the point where I thought my neighbors were going to start calling 911 and the SWAT teams were going to show up at our house again, because the noises that were coming out of this house when we scored that goal, I was so happy to see it happen. And then to watch the way those players conducted themselves, Carl, just saying how proud they were to represent our country on the world stage.
That's
and
why
the
they
job
won.
they did, the class and the humility. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm proud to be an American.
Imagine if we could get all the American athletes representing us overseas to be proud to be American. Wouldn't that be something? All right, Ashley, I don't know if hell froze over or something, but Michigan Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer thanked President Trump. Watch this.
Michigan is open for business. New factories making batteries, cars, chips are opening in Marshall, Lake Orion, Holland, Bay City, Calumet, Hemlock, Ann Arbor, and Delta Township. Probably not on the bingo card, but I want to thank President Trump for his work on this.
What? Did I hear that right?
I know. This feels crazy to me, but at the same time, you know, Gretchen Whitmer has been caught in places like the Oval Office meeting with President Trump. She's one of those Democrats that actually has seemed to cross lines and be caught in scenarios in certain ways. And I think her exit of that speech was very interesting. It was a big Gretch out, I believe, and I think maybe we should end your show that way, big Carl out.
Yeah, maybe we will. I'll talk to my producers, see if they let me off the leash for that one. Shawn, yesterday we told you about a serial Sacramento child rapist that the state parole board granted early release. Well, maybe he's going to run for mayor, because Fresno, California, there's a registered sex offender that's launched a city council campaign. What the hell is wrong with, look at this.
Let's choose somebody outside the box, somebody who knows the system from inside out. Because I've experienced the laws that we are trying to reform right now.
Oh, first off, like, anybody's surprised that guy's a registered sex offender, but also he won't be able to go into, look at him. Yeah, okay. Why did they always look like that? He won't be able to go into a school if he has to do a meeting there.
Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, that's a problem, what you're bringing up, right? But remember, this is the Democrat Party. This is the party of, they're not pedophiles, Carl. They're not sex, but they're just minor-attracted people, right? They're just attracted to minors. It's just, you know, it's a condition that they're suffering from. It's not choices that they're making or anything like that. No, it's disgusting is what it is. And I would expect nothing less from this depraved, disgusting Democrat Party.
But Ashley, this is the problem, is all the articles that are all being written right now are all like, well, you know, we should forget about it. But like, the logistics would be, he wouldn't be able to go to school. He wouldn't be able to meet and greet with children if he need. It's like, the dude shouldn't be running for office. I'm talking like Brush Bandit, 1890, 24-inch opening wood chipper for this guy.
Right. And I'm a Christian too, and I'm all for forgiveness, but like a sex offender running for office, that's the least thing we need right now. I think when people get power too, I mean, that opens doors for corruption. We see it in Congress right now. I know you were just talking to the Congresswoman about this exact thing.
Yes.
This is why people like this should not be put in power. And like I said, I'm all about forgiveness, but the American people don't forget these things. And why should we elect these type of people to office?
No, and I can't unsee it either. So thanks for that, producers. Shawn, Ashley, appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, what's the beef? Demand for beef is rising and American ranches are closing. What the heck is going on? We're going to break this down in a sec.
The crisis inside Ukraine has reached a catastrophic level, with the elderly Jews pushed to the very limit.
Go inside.
She's freezing cold. There's no electricity, no heat, no water. Winter is now a weapon of war, used against the elderly, the mothers, and the young children.
They've been lined up here for hours. These are precious people who are hungry, and they have nothing. If someone doesn't do something soon, a humanitarian disaster is coming. So many Jewish people who are just waiting for someone to care enough to pick up the phone.
Fears are growing that without an emergency, full-scale response, thousands will die this winter.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews needs your $25 gift now to help rush a winter survival food box of emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine. Today, there's a special opportunity to double your gift's impact, thanks to generous fellowship partners. Call now and your gift's impact will be doubled.
They felt the shaking of missiles. These are people who have already endured so much suffering and disaster, taking out power, taking out water, simple water to drink. We're talking about the difference between life or death. Christian, Jew, standing shoulder to shoulder, saying, we're here to heal, we're here to help.
Your gift of only $25 helps rush a winter survival food box filled with life-saving emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine. Thanks to a special matching challenge, if you call now, your gift's impact will be doubled. Time is critical. Please give now.
Whoa, 90% off? I have to purchase now. My phone!
That was a scam link.
Try this one. We installed PCmatic.
PCmatic blocks ransomware before threats can strike.
It's 100% made in America security.
Trusted by homes, businesses, governments, and now you. Stop guessing.
Start blocking.
Get PCmatic.
At Lumber Liquidators, we have the best prices on flooring, and we guarantee it. Find a lower price, we will beat it with our best price guarantee. See us advertising a lower price than you paid, we will refund the difference. You'll never pay more than you should at Lumber Liquidators, and you'll get the best warranty in the business. Yellow and black is back, and so are the deals. We are flooring experts that will help you get the right floor at the right price for any room in your home. LumberLiquidators.com. Tell them Tom sent you.
You've noticed it. I've noticed it, that the price of beef has skyrocketed over the last few years. Take a look at this. This is the price of ground beef per pound since 1984. From January 1984 to January 2003, the price was pretty stable, going from $1.29 a pound to $1.72 a pound. 19 years, an increase of 33%. Now, keep in mind, in the same time period, inflation on the dollar went up 77% over those same 2 decades, meaning that the price of beef relatively went down, actually. Then it ticked up more, going from $1.72 in 2003 to $2.28 by 2010. That's a 32% jump. Now, over the next 6 years, prices soared again. In January 2016, when Trump took over, the price was $3.98 a pound. In the last 6 years before that, Obama gave us a 75% increase in beef. Over the next 5 years under Trump, well, 4 under Trump, the market stabilized, even slightly decreasing, going from $3.98 in January 2016, when early on, to $3.97 a pound in January 2021 when he left office. But since Biden took office, the numbers soared. Last month, the price of ground beef was $6.75, a 70% increase from that over the last 5 years. So ranchers, you would think they'd be making a killing, right? Well, not all of them. If you own the production and the slaughter and the process and the shipment, they can, but most don't own that whole chain. This comes down to supply and demand. According to the USDA, since 2017, the United States has lost 17% of cattle ranchers. That's more than 150,000 beef operations gone. The national herd is at a 75-year low, when America's population, by the way, 75 years ago, was half, 155 million people, half what it is today. The demand for beef is grown incredibly, despite what Bill Gates wants, 10% over the decade, actually. The main reason for this is that 85% of the U.S. beef market is controlled by 4 companies: Tyson, Cargill, JBS, National Beef. JBS and National Beef aren't even American companies. That's not a monopoly. I don't know what the hell is, because only 4 companies dominate the market. Ranchers have, though, less bargaining power than ever before, receiving less than 30 cents of every retail beef dollar than before. Historic low. Livestock auctioneer, Missouri cattle rancher Quest Flesner. All right, Quest, insane that the herd is down to such a low.
Yeah, we've our sales where we would normally see 1,000 to 2,000 head coming through the barn are about a third, 30 to 40% lower. Just many producers are getting out right now. Times are tough here lately. We have kind of had an uptick in price that's been much needed, but it came too late for a lot of producers that put in a lot of hard work, a lot of their time, blood, sweat, and tears, and just didn't see the reward soon enough and chose to get out. I think that's why we see our cow numbers where they're at right now. You know, I always say that we enjoy the privilege of the president occasionally watching this show. Do you think it's time for him to declare a national emergency for cattle farmers to help replenish the beef population? I do. I think the Trump administration should really open their eyes. I've always said this. When you look at the price of burgers, steaks, and whatnot, good food isn't cheap and cheap food isn't good. But on the flip side of that, it has to be made and affordable for your average Americans and working people. And I think the Trump administration needs to pay attention that we have got an enormous demand right now, and these big 4 packers are not giving any of it back to the ranchers, the people that are putting in the blood, the sweat, and the tears at day at night, pulling calves in the middle of the night, and they're not getting any of that back. The packers, if you look at their profits, somebody like JBS that also loves to import meat, that's the real problem. I just hope the Trump administration can get a handle on this in the next 3 years. Yeah, well, and sorry, I got about 30 seconds left here. You guys are getting paid less for the head of cattle. They're charging more at the store shelves for you and for guys like me to buy it, and yet they're just taking 50% larger profit margins. Their margins are bigger now than they have been, and then anything they can import. Since we don't have country origin labeling and we don't know where our beef comes from, they really make money on that. Anything that they're bringing in, especially JBS, is the main culprit of this. Yeah, well, I will say this is why I buy my meat from U.S. Wellness Meats with our buddy John Wood, who connected us today. So, sir, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. All right, before we go, favorite time of the week. Comments for Carl next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Have you ever thought of getting a walk-in tub for you or someone you love? Now is a great time to take a look at getting a Safe Step walk-in tub.
With Safe Step's standard heated seat and new fast fill faucet, you can enjoy a nice warm bath up to 20% faster. And the convenient touchpad control is right at your fingertips.
Each tub comes standard with a dual hydrotherapy system. The 10 water jets can help increase mobility, relieve pain, boost energy, and improve sleep, while the MicroSoothe advanced air therapy system oxygenates and softens skin.
Safe Step walk-in tubs are built to maximize safety so you can stay in your home and enjoy the comforts of bathing again.
So call now for more information and a free no-obligation consultation.
When you call today, you'll also receive our limited time offer. Don't wait to enjoy safer bathing. Call 1-800-296-0431.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. Please make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. See their stories at Ancestry.
Go ahead. Crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
All right, Thursday, comments for Carl. Let's do this. All right, check this out. You probably saw Harry Sissons and his new husband, Gavin Newsom, post a picture together. I made fun of them, joking about gay marriage because, whatever. All right. So Craig Scott, 34, was big mad saying, this is so funny. Carl, you quote tweeting it, says otherwise. Also, can you tell me who has more followers, you or Harry? Just curious, since Harry is more successful than you and doesn't support pedophiles. Dude. Okay, that's how I measure success in my life, is by my social media following. That's what my kids will remember me as. Out of the 250,000 followers I also have on the X or Twitter, I've purchased approximately, give or take, 0. Other people, like Harry Sissons, can't say the same. Yesterday, I also made fun of the fact that congressional Democrats had, dancing frogs and giraffes as part of their State of the Union alternative. And Rudy, who obviously hates Trump, said, remember the Ninja Turtle dancing at Mar-a-Lago while Vanilla Ice was singing You Fat F? I sure do. Thanks, Rob. So I sure do. I was actually invited to that celebration, which was New Year's Eve celebration at a private country club for private citizens, not congressional endorsed thing. Vanilla Ice was also invited to troll Democrats because their stance against ICE is obviously insane. And the reason the Ninja Turtles were there, get ready for this, which Rudy would have known with a 6-second Google search, was because he sang the original soundtrack for the movie Ninja Turtles in the 90s. I also love the fact that you called me fat, considering, Rob, how fat am I?
He's not, he's a brick.
Exactly.
You're an actual, huge clump of muscle.
So also,
with a head on top.
Let's do this last one. I did this mono having to do with Iran and turning it into a 6-foot thick sheet of glass. And this pilot commented, not a fan of war either, but that was one hell of a sales pitch. I'm selling freedom, and it looks like you're buying. So, Rob, we get a chance to do these things and interact with the audience. I find it one of the better parts of my day.
It is fun.
Yeah.
We
had somebody with cats, too. Can we put that picture up real quick?
You had a cat?
Somebody had cat. There it is.
Oh,
the cats were watching. I'm not a cat guy, but that was pretty cool.
I like cats. Cats are funny because they're a-holes, and it entertains me.
They would eat you.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
They would in 2 seconds.
Yeah, look at them.
Serve them better.
Yeah. Ready.
Carl,
All right,
see you. Thanks so much.